Now is the time, a time you'll look back on, a time you adopt as inspiration. You will recollect this time, this moment, right now. Motivate yourself towards success. Overcome, take over. The time is now.
Hey!
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Loaded Mag NUFC. Back again for another show as we build to another big week. But boys, first and foremost, how are you? Hey, green screens all over the place, Daz.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, no. Changed my settings again. I was tweaking something in the background.
How's things?
All good with me. All good. We'll get to Richie in a second. Yeah, all good with me. Yeah, just running and racing all day. Work, picking up the little boy, bringing him to football training. If I have half a lasagna on the side of my face, I apologize. It was a quickie just for this. But apart from that, all good. Hope I don't get sick.
Yeah, definitely. Mr. Hall, how are you, fella?
Yeah, good mate, good. Yeah, I'm all right. I'm just, I suppose I'm just waiting in anticipation now for for the big match at the weekend. It really does feel. I know we've said this a number of times, lads, but it really does feel like the biggest match of our recent history, doesn't it? Because to me, and I don't know what everyone in the chat thinks, but to me, if we beat Spurs on the weekend, then I think we've got top four. I think it's done. It really feels that key to me because in front of 52,000 Geordies and getting a big performance, big results. I just think we'll kick on them. I just think we've got the fixtures. We've got Everton away following it. Then we've got Southampton at home. I just think it's all in our hands then. And I just think getting 3 points this weekend is going to set us on the right track. Do you know what? I've not even contemplated possibly losing the game. I can't even contemplate it. So yeah, I'm just eagerly awaiting the performance and the results of the weekend.
Yeah, I think we're all in that boat. Look, we'll talk about it, that's for sure. Come on then. I was about to call drop along, but I'm sure he'll explain it easy in a second.
Hang on a sec. Here we go, Richie. Go on.
No.
Come on, tell the story.
He's gone off.
Yeah, well, everyone knows we've got a huge game next week. Obviously, we'll put the link along the screen for the Food Bank game against Newcastle Fans TV. Unfortunately, I will not be able to play. We will be looking for a goalkeeper. Unfortunately, I actually tore my ACL on Monday night, so I will not be playing football again this year.
Just when we thought we had the squad set, we were ready to go, spanner in the works.
Yeah.
But no, in all seriousness, I hope you're as well as you can be, because doing those sorts of injuries are never ever good. So
yeah, it's bloody. Put it this way, I'm on that many painkillers anyway for my shoulder and me other knee, and it's like I'm still feeling the pain through that. So it's so I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Put it that way.
We shall rebuild him.
Yeah.
We'll get you back.
Yes, we shall.
Bionic man.
It's all right, because when we're painting the town red in the tune, once you get a few years down, you won't notice anything. You'll be dancing around and doing all sorts at that point. You won't feel a thing until the next day.
Next day.
But look, it's an interesting week this week. It feels like a very long week. I think Chris has already alluded to it in terms of the Spurs game. It's Wednesday, the game's Sunday, but it feels like we're another week away for it. It can't come quick enough. And look, we'll get into the response in just a second, but I am aware there's lots of people in the chat already. I know we're filing through some of the questions and comments. Jules, welcome to the chat. Jordan for life. We've got Craig Lee, our resident spanner, Lisa Moll, welcome. As always, Would I Eat There, Mark Todd, Stephen Nutkin, welcome in, David Cook, Drew, and many, many more. Welcome to the chat. We are available to answer all of your questions. Get your questions in. Super chats are available, so get involved and we will get your questions answered tonight. How do we respond, boys? Might sound really simple, but how do we respond? What do we need to do? What do these boys need to do on Sunday to show that they've responded from what was a really, really drab and poor performance, probably our worst of the season? What do you think we need to do to, show that that was just a one-off? What is it that we need to do? Daz, I'll come to you first.
Okay, well, I haven't really thought about this, Pete, but
Sorry.
but no, the first thing to do would be inside the first 2 minutes, don't give the Spurs a shot on goal or let them hit the post or accidentally hit the post ourselves for them. But yeah, in training this week, they have to show hunger, desire. They have to show that they're up for this game. And like for me, this is a total 6-pointer. I think Chris, you said it there. I know Martin was kind of saying, look, there's other games out there. It's not an all or nothing. But for me, this is an all or nothing. That's why I said winner takes it all for this one. And yeah, we just have to be mentally there. I think the crowd is going to have to be behind them as well. It always says in St. James's Park. I'm sure war flags are going to be out in action as well, and it's going to be absolutely massive. You talk about the cup final during the season. Talk about Villa's cup final there the last weekend, but this is a cup final of some regard as well. And we're at home. We're home for our cup final. So let's go after it. Let's get it. Let's get the result we need and want. And let's not be thinking about, draw, be grand. No, it won't. Go and get the win and make sure of it. Guarantee our destiny and that we get into the Champions League. As you said, Chris, it doesn't bear thinking if we lose this one.
Definitely. Look, Chris, you've already alluded to the fact that it's such a big game. How big is this game? And is there anything different that you want to see, in particular from you personally, from the lads on Sunday in how we respond?
Yeah, do you know what, Pete? It's an interesting question because, it was funny when we did the review show, wasn't it? Because I think we were all dreading doing that show, and it was probably the first show where people weren't getting 8s, 9s, and 10s, which were being scattered all around the team. In terms of what to do you know what? That is the $1 million question, isn't it? For what I want to see from the team, what I hope has happened this week, I hope they've analysed it, I hope they've reviewed it, I hope they've gone through it in fine detail as to what happened last weekend. But I hope now, especially with it being the middle of the week, that's just put to bed, and it's like, right, we start again. We look to go on another unbeaten run, because that performance in isolation was, well, it was the worst performance of the season, and it's very uncharacteristic of us. I mean, we saw the poor first half performance against Brentford. We turned it round. We saw a bit of a drab performance in the cup final, but that can be forgiven. Maybe maybe the lads just weren't feeling themselves, or the occasion got the better of them. I don't know, but that performance against Villa is something that we haven't seen. You could argue we haven't seen it under Eddie Howe. I mean, we had that really poor performance against Cambridge, but I think we actually saw more glimpses in that Cambridge game than we did against Villa. I would say that was probably the worst performance of the season, but I think what I want to see, I'd like to see him make a couple of changes. I'm not saying, revamp the whole squad. I think that's probably too going too far.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to see confidence, and I want to see belief, and I want to see effort. And I'm not saying that we didn't see effort at the weekends, but I just don't think we were at the races. Plugging in the ancient races there, but I just don't think we looked like we were at it. And I just hope that this week has been all about, right, let's get back to basics. Let's get back to what we know we can do, how we've performed in the other 29 games this season, or 30 games, whatever it is. You know, we need to get back to that, and quickly. Weirdly, I was, to quote what Daz has just said, I was saying last week's game against Villa wasn't make or break. That wasn't do or die. This game, I think, is. I think this is do or die, because if we follow up that Villa performance with another performance against Tottenham like that, and we get turned over very, very easily, I think that's when it'll really start keeping in. I hope the fans get behind the lads. I'm sure they will. I'd love to be there at the weekends, but you know, I'm not going to be. But I just hope the fans get behind them, and I hope that the fans use the fans. I hope the players use the fans as the 12th man, which is what they will be. And I think I think the players know how important this game is, and I think they will use the hate of the Villa game to, you know, get us over the line. Worst case scenario, for me at the weekend would be a draw. Worst case, I can't even fathom a loss. We've got to go out there and we've got to try and get those 3 points, and I firmly believe we can as well.
Yeah, I believe so too. Richie, are you of the same mindset that is a must-win? We have to remember that, and I put this out there, that, you know, a win for Tottenham, although we don't want to even consider that, they draw on points with us, but we're still ahead of them in goal difference. So does it make it a must-win, or is it a must-win for us because we want to keep that gap expanded? But in addition to that, as the boys have all said, they've had their opinions on what they want to see, in particular from the boys, that you didn't see on Saturday.
I think first of all, it's not a must win. I think it's a must not lose game. I think it's that's a slight, because even if you get a point, you know, we're still 3 points ahead with a game in hand. Worst case scenario, and obviously touch wood, it doesn't happen, but if we were to lose, obviously the pull level us, we're still ahead on goal difference, but we still have a game in hand. So the ball's still in our court, so to speak, no matter what happens. However, I think, you know, you look at what happened. I'm going to use the Villa game a bit like the Carabao Cup final. We didn't play to the capabilities that we know we can. I think Eddie Howell, what he'll do is he'll say, you remember how you felt when you got beat off Man United? And then you look at how you felt last week. I imagine it's going to be pretty similar. Then you look at how you returned the favour to Man United a few weeks ago. And I think what they'll do is they'll use that negativity off that to really hit the ball rolling on Sunday. I think the fans will create a Champions League atmosphere, as they always do. You know, the fans know how important this game is on a Sunday, without fail. And I think the one thing that's the most important in regards to team on Sunday is they've got to go at it from the off. They can't start slow, which they have done over, you know, it was West Ham and Villa. They didn't get started at all against Villa. They didn't get started for the first 5 minutes and could have been 1 down at West Ham. You know, if you've got a striker in Harry Kane and there's Homegrown Son on there as well, you know, that they're this type of strikers that you don't need to give. You can even give them a half chance and make something out of it. So if you give them half a chance and you need them to start fast, then, you know, there's loads of different possibilities the results could be. So we've got to hit the ground running. We've got to take it to Spurs straight away, because we know how vulnerable Spurs are. They're not great defensively. I believe our midfield is hands down better. I do like Højbjerg. They're missing Bentancur. Obviously, he's a fantastic player. Obviously, out injured. Yeah. I think Skip is he's someone that you could really get stuck into. I think he's one of those sort of people where you think he could probably lose his head. He tends to pick up a booting quite a bit, so it might be worth, you know, whether to target him, you know, as possibly someone that could wind up and get sent off. Because I think, you know, it's all right playing at the Spurs stadium, but there's no atmosphere there. If you get Newcastle St James's Park against you, you know, we saw how other teams have crumbled in the last few years since the atmosphere's come back. You know, Man United this season, Arsenal last season is prime examples that they can't cope with the atmosphere. And players like that, yes, okay, he's played the Champions League this year, but you know, Spurs are an awful team this year. We've got to put the pressure onto them rather than us feeling the pressure. So we have to start good, start fast. And I'd like to see us if we could get an early goal. And I think that would really settle everyone down. But as long as the fans stay with the team throughout, I still think we'll get a positive result. But as I said at the start, I don't think it's a must win, it's a mustn't lose.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very, very good point. I think all of the points you boys made are really, really good. For me, I've been adamant we're winning this game. I can't say anything other than a win, and I might have pie on my face come 7 o'clock Sunday night. I hope not, but I genuinely believe that we'll win the game. I really do. And you speak to many other Tottenham fans, they also think and believe that actually they will lose the game. None of them are confident coming up to St James's Park because of the atmosphere and because we've got something to respond to after a poor performance. The one thing you mentioned is that Spurs have been poor, have had a shocking season, that they've been awful this season. They're still in it, and I don't know how. I don't know. Genuinely, I don't know you guys. I genuinely see Tottenham's this season on par with like a Chelsea, with the way they've performed this season, but they're still hung in there. I don't know how they've managed to do it. I think Sunday's the day that we end them within this race. I'm not saying that it ends the Champions League race. A Brighton, a Villa could emerge from that, but I think Sunday ends the contest, in my opinion, for if we win, for Tottenham coming back into it. And that's just kind of my opinion on that.
Just on that Pete, taking your point there, and how are Spurs still in it? For them, and I'm looking at my own sheet here, but they've got us, they've got Man United at home, and then Liverpool. So let's hope they're not in it for too much longer.
And they've got Villa away as well.
Villa away after that, yeah.
That's why I think. That's why I think if we win, Tottenham are out of it. And Pete, we spoke earlier today. I was having a bit of a wobble last night, boys. I don't know if I told you or not, but I saw that Liverpool result, and I had all my vet mates in my ears going, "Oh, I think we can catch it. I think we can catch it." And I was thinking, I looked at their fixtures and I was like, "Oh my God, could they catch us?" And then Pete calmed me down today, and he was like, "This." He said they've got 21 points.
Calm down.
Yeah, he was. He was calming down, and he was saying they'd have to win all the games, and we'd have to. I think, do you know what it is? It's probably because I'm from Liverpool, and obviously I've seen. You know, this is apparently the most unlucky team in the world. I've seen, you know, remarkable comebacks. I've seen them win 12 games in a row. I've seen them, you know, win an FA Cup final off a 35-yard Gerrard strike, and I've seen them come back 3-0 against against arguably one of the best Champions League final teams you'll ever see in AC Milan. That lineup was ridiculous, and then you know they come back 3-0 down at half time and win.
Give me Tory.
Yeah, it's just like, oh mate, honestly, like. So I suppose I've still got this horrible feeling that they're just gonna miraculously, you know, do it, but. Yeah, you know, if you discount Liverpool and then you discount Tottenham with a win at the weekend, surely we've wrapped it up. Surely, if we beat Tottenham.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was going to say, Pete, I don't know whether you follow Ginger Perlo on Twitter, but he put out a good tweet this morning, which I thought was really relevant to discuss, obviously, since you brought that up. And he was saying,
I'm going to capture it. Go on.
No, you've got to capture it. Yeah, it was a really, really good tweet, and he basically said, obviously, if you look at the, you know, from Man United down to Villa, and he said if everybody wins all their games, but bear in mind, isn't going to be possible because there's a few teams still going to play each other and everything like that. So, Man United could get 83 points maximum. Newcastle can get 80. Brighton can get 76. Spurs can get 74. Liverpool 71, and Villa 71.
That's
Now,
correct, Richie.
that's the maximum that they can all get. Now, bear in mind at the moment, Man United are on 59, Newcastle are on 56, Tottenham and Villa have played a game more, and they're 3 points and 6 points behind us, respectively.
Yep.
And then you go into Brighton, who've played a game less than us, but are 7 points behind us. And obviously, Liverpool have played the same as us, but are 9 points behind us. There's seriously, lads.
But then the big factor in that, Richie, is that they have to play each other still.
Yeah.
So they're the maximum points that they could all get if they win all their games. But we know they're not all going to win their games because something has to give because they're playing each other. So naturally, automatically, that total figure drops for everyone else around us. Sorry, I interrupted there.
Well, we're saying what you could do is if Daz puts that back up, what you could do is we could do what we did against, when we discussed the fixtures. You could go through that, look at who they've got each left, and you could probably potentially work out what they're going to end up on.
Yeah,
we can whiz through it. Why not?
Yeah, it is kind of guesswork.
But even then, if you say, for example, you've got Man United v Spurs, for example, well, they're for a start, both teams can't win that one. And I'd imagine that Man United are probably going to be favourites for that one. And I would take Man United to win that, and I'd probably expect you three to think that as well. So, there's 3 points that Spurs are dropping. They've then got, obviously, Villa. Sorry, that's Man United. So Villa, that could be a tough one for them. But if you go, obviously, along the Spurs, they've got us, Villa, Liverpool, and they've got Palace, which will be a tricky one as well, because Palace have turned the corner as well.
Yeah,
there's some awful fixtures in there.
You look at after Palace, they've got to go to Villa. If Villa are going to play anywhere near they played against us, they'll turn them over. And then Brentford, if Bournemouth could turn them over at their ground, Brentford can't.
Villa have to play everyone else bar us.
Yeah,
so they're going to affect the teams around us.
I think what we said we'd do, lads, we'll do another shot at that run-in, but we'll wait until after the Spurs game. It's probably the key to and before we move on, lads, I want to give a shout out to Jimmy. Shout out to Jimmy, who's having some tests on at the moment. Get well soon, Jimmy. I hope you liked the little Smurf I sent you, but wore the blue as well to Smurf in a doctor's outfit there for you, Jimmy. I'm sure you enjoyed that one. But yeah, get well soon, buddy, and great to have you in the chat.
Definitely, top man. Dropped him a message earlier. He seems okay, but he's just. I just said to him, he's got to keep fighting. Just keep fighting, and we're all behind him anyway. No doubt about that. But just before we go anywhere, I just want to give a massive shout out to Stephen Nutkin. Thank you for your donation to the channel, $4.99. Next time, anyone that wants to go on the super chat and put a donation that helps the channel, put a question on there, put something on there, because we'll prioritize that and we'll make sure we answer it. So anyone else in the chat that wants to put that super chat out there or give a donation to the channel, make sure you put a question on there. So Stephen, put a question in the chat now, and we'll prioritize and we'll answer the question, because you hadn't put anything in there before. But thank you for your donation. Everyone else, it's
Stephen,
much appreciated. And what I did want to get from you guys before we move on is Newcastle's games. We don't need to pull up the fixtures. I'll read out the games. I imagine we all know what they are anyway. We've obviously got Tottenham on Sunday. Then we've got Thursday's game. I'm about to have to Aston Villa. No, it's not. It's Everton, Goodison Park. And then we are all going to be at the game at St. James's Park watching us play Southampton. So looking at those 3 games, after playing 4 out of the last 5 away from home, how do you see that going in terms of points? So there's obviously clearly a maximum of 9 points. What do you genuinely believe we will pick up from those 3 games? We'll have to look at the fixtures in isolation, but what do you think is a realistic points total for us?
I'm not being stupid here, but 9. 9 here is realistic, and it's very much achievable. It's just getting back as the title of the show suggested. How will Newcastle respond? And we'll know early enough. We'll know after in the first half of the game how they have responded. It is going to be tight going from transition from the Everton game then into the Southampton game, because there's not very long in between them. But their fixtures we should be winning. I know Everton away is tough. We got done there last season with Frank Lampard in charge, but I think 9. I'm expecting 9.
Okay, and to add to that, just before I move on to the other boys, out of the 3, what do you see as our most difficult fixture?
I'm going to say the Everton away.
Any particular reason why?
Because we're away. And we got done last year there. That's why. And they're fighting a relegation battle, as are Southampton, but we're at home with the 12th man. I'm hoping will get us over the line in the other 2. It's just tricky, the midweek game. Yeah, that's why I think that's the most difficult.
Okay, Chris, I'll come to you. Points total for the next 3 games, and what is in your opinion, the most difficult game out of the 3? I know you got a few kind of location. From a locational point of view, you got that in the background as well to play with.
Yeah, I think for me, see, it's funny because like when Daz said 9, I was thinking before Daz said 9, I was thinking 7, and I was thinking Tottenham win, Everton draw, Southampton win. I've got no doubt we'll win the Southampton game. I'm fully on board with that. I'm 90% sure we'll win the Tottenham game. The Everton game, I don't know what it is. I think it's just because, I know most of my mates will be in the home end, and I'll be stood in the away end as I was last season. And I just remember seeing that Iwobi goal, and I was just thinking, I can't believe we're not winning this game. I cannot believe we've managed to, and Everton always seem to find a way. They always seem to find a way to get enough points. I was discussing this with a couple of mates today, about the relegation battle, which thankfully we're not in. And Everton always managed to pick up points where you least suspect it. And I just think our fixture against them, the majority of the country would say, well, that's a Newcastle win. And I just think, really, like Dad said, we should be getting 9 points. It shouldn't even be a conversation. And if we go and beat Spurs convincingly, we've got to be going into that game confident. But I've just got this nagging feeling. Tell you what, I'm gonna go with Daz. I'm gonna say 9 points.
Go on.
But I'm gonna say Everton is the difficult one. Everton is the banana skin based on the fact that they're gonna be fighting for their lives. I think Southampton don't have enough in the tank. I don't think they've got enough quality. Not that Everton have got loads of quality, because they haven't. But I think Everton away is going to be the difficult one. But I know I'm gonna stick with 9. I'm gonna say 9.
Okay, nines all round so far. Richie, is it a Fabian show, or are you going for something different? but equally, what do you think our toughest game is?
Do you know what? I'm going to say it a little bit different. I think the hardest one could possibly be Sunday, literally because there's a lot riding on it, and obviously, I'm looking at fans. We know, like, we thought we could beat Villa, and how everyone was thinking, oh, look how good the position will be if we beat Villa, and it's stuff like that, and it's like, we're saying that exactly the same again about, obviously, when we beat Spurs on Sunday. Don't get me wrong, I believe we'll beat Spurs on Sunday. But you know what I mean? The people, the way they go on, and it's like, it's one of those where we've got everything in our hands. I think it's just Daz always goes along with this. He's got the negative head on all the time as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm saying 9 points.
That's awful sort of stuff, isn't it, Daz? I think it's just because of what we've been used to over the years. So I think, it's a momentous game full stop for that reason, but also we want revenge for the Consortium's first game last year, where it was a fantastic game for the neutral. I know we lost 3-2, But we started really well, capitulated, and then got back into it. And we like a bit of revenge sort of thing. But at the end of the day, we also know Spurs can be Spursy, and it's like they could turn up. They've got a lot of experience in that squad, and they could turn up. I'm just hoping they don't. But regards points wise, yeah, Fabian Schär, but I think it's a big Al number 9. What we're looking at, but I think we have to look at a target a minimum of 7.
Yeah.
Do you feel, Rich? Sorry, just to add in something here, and you're right. I agree with what you're saying. You're right. And when you look at the Everton squad and you look at the Southampton squad and the Tottenham squad, you probably should be most fearful of Tottenham because of if Son turns up, if Kane turns up, if Kulusevski turns up, if Richarlison turns up, they're all fantastic players on the day, and there's more. But do you think the confidence is flowing through us because of the Villa performance, because we're back at St James's, because of how big the game is? And also, do you think it's because Tottenham got rid of Conte, brought in the assistant who's doing exactly the same job with exactly the same formation? There's nothing new there. Do you kind of feel more confident because of how they're being managed, would you say?
On that front, yes, because it's the same as with Chelsea, though, isn't it? It's like they get rid of the manager that thought they were going to grow a squad, and then they take 2 steps backwards and have Lampard for the rest of the season, and he's come in and did exactly what everyone thought he was going to do. He wasn't going to stabilise the ship. It was never going to happen. And he's proven that everybody right. Now, I think the issue is with both, the reason why I bring Chelsea as well as Spurs is because they're both in a position where Spurs they've got something to fight for still. They've got obviously top 4 to go for. But I'm wondering if they're having trouble to bring a manager in because there's automatic pressure from an underperforming squad to get top 4. Whereas with Chelsea, they're pretty much out of it. So no one wants to come in when there's nothing to play for. So they'll want to have someone to come in the summer. Spurs, on the other hand, have got something to fight for. But that manager, whoever comes in, if it's a Nagelsmann or it's a Poch or it's Luis Enrique type colour, there's a lot of pressure on them and their name to deliver straight from the off and to get them Champions League football. And it's that for me. It's that I think they're not prepared. They're not prepared to take a risk on their CV of not qualifying for Champions League football, which is why Spurs have had to keep on with the assistant. They might as well have stayed with Conte because, for me, Conte is a more experienced manager anyway, and he's Champions League in Italy over here. Obviously Chelsea, the Premier League as well. For someone who's his assistant who hasn't got that, for all we know, he could be bloody ringing Conte up on a weekend during the week and not getting bad advice. For all we know, because obviously they've got a close relationship. So regards to the squad, yes, they've got the better squad. But if you look at the other 2 games, and for me, there's concerns on all 3 games. Obviously, the Everton one's away from home. But for me, on that one, I don't think you're going to have the one-off interruption that we had last year when there's a pitch invader cable ties himself to the post. I know we've discussed this a few times in recent weeks. We can't see that happening again. But if you look at the squad that we had that played that game, we started with Ryan Fraser, Chris Wood, Almiron up front. The midfield's pretty much the same. We had Kraft at right back, Target left back, and Dubravka in defence. So you look straight away, you've got a better goalkeeper, a better right back. Target could possibly be coming in. Botman's obviously in there instead of Burnett centre half. One of the midfielders out of Jolit and Bruno and Willock's probably going to be dropped for either play out wide or in the Longstaff will come in because we can't kid ourselves. We missed Longstaff at the weekend. He pretty much proved to everybody why he's in the team over that. We really missed his energy. He's breaking up play and letting that interchangeable moves he does with Bruno and stuff, that understanding he's developed with him. And then up front, if you bring Isak, Wilson, any of those in, they're better than Ryan Fraser and Chris Wood. So for me, the only issue is obviously, as like Chris says, it's away Goodison, and I think Pete, that's like Dad said that as well. It's away from St James's, so that's a tricky bit. Everton, obviously, they're fighting for their life, and they're going to have the blue support, the blue half of it, Liverpool behind them.
Yeah.
Then you got the Southampton game, which obviously Pete mentioned. We're all there, so we're expecting a win. We can't not turn up and not have a win. But then you go to the semi-final that we had against them up here in January, and when they pulled the goal back, when obviously Shea Adams when obviously Pete's protege and Shea Adams pulled the goal back, we went backs to the wall for some reason. We stopped playing our game. And that's the concern for the Southampton that we think, oh, it's only Southampton, the bottom of the league. It'll be a walkover because we found out when we started, like a rocket, didn't we? We're 2-0 up pretty quick. But as soon as they scored, we had our backs against the wall. And obviously, Bruno got sent off, and that, scupped with a lot of the lads' confidence and game plan and stuff like that. So that's the concern of that. And we've got to see that out for 90 minutes and not let Southampton get back into the game, because obviously we know as Everton are, they're fighting for their life too. So there's a little bit of an issue with each game, but I still think the way that Eddie Howe, gets his team ready for each game, I still believe he'll have enough to get maximum points out of all three.
Yeah, I would agree with that, with the Spurs game being the toughest of the three. And the reason being is why I say that is because this is the game where we need a response. If we don't respond on Sunday, that then kind of snowballs over to Thursday. And you don't want to be going to Everton at Goodison Park on Thursday having not won a game and confidence being high. Because that's the type of ground, because you'll know we were there last season. That's the type of ground that on any given night can turn up and build an atmosphere. The atmosphere was very, very good at Goodison Park this time last year for that reason. But there's many other games where it's not. So if we go there full of confidence, we can bypass all that atmosphere, play the stuff because we've got confidence back in our levels again, and we can do the business.
Absolutely, Pete, just to add to that, they absolutely hate us. Yeah. And if we give them an inch, they'll take a mile. Yeah. But if we turn up there and we put them to the sword in the first 15-20 minutes, the atmosphere turns like that. And then the fans get on the players' backs. And then I think if we score in the first 15-20 minutes, the game's done. Because I think they will all all the fans will focus all of their anger on their own players. Yeah. But if we give them an inch, they will. I'd
be tempted to start Wilson against Everton. He's got a good. He's a bit like what he is against West Ham. He does like playing against Everton. I think it's just that's perfectly set up from that game for him to start. A bit like obviously what they did with the West Ham and then the Brentford games. The start Isak and then brought Wilson in and then started Isak. I think that's what they'll possibly do for this week as well. So I think Wilson will be targeted for that one, and I think he'll love that. He'll love that battle, against Cody and James Tarkowski. He'll just that's the sort of like battle he likes up front. He really get his teeth into it, and I just think it's set up for him. Just we look at that goal that we scored during the lockdown, and the one where Wilson runs off scoring, and we saw all the horrendous like memes that came out with Pickford on the floor, grimacing because the ball was going in, and then we saw what people did about all the pictures and photoshops, which were quite funny and stuff. It's just got that sort of atmosphere for me for that game against Everton. There's just I like
it. Shit house, isn't he? Yeah, Wilson's perfect for that. Yeah, I agree.
Just before we move on, just a reminder to people to make sure you hit that like button, and if you're new to the channel and if you want to get into the chat as well, hit that subscribe button, and that'll allow you into the chat. And you get there it is again, hey! my old friend that I can't find anymore. But that's great. Make sure you hit that like button. Look, we'll set a target of, let's say, 200 likes. You can do that. Come on, people. 91 in the chat at the moment. You can do that. And Pete, I want to go to you then. And did you give us a total for the points total?
Yeah.
Points total, Pete. Yeah.
It's got to be a Fabian short. It's got to be a 9.
Yes, the right answer, correct.
So Southampton for me, and it might come back to bite me on the arse, but Southampton to me is a banker. We win that game at home against Southampton. But it all depends on what we do Sunday. We get the win. I think we steamroll into Goodison Park and we continue that good form. We've shown it before, just the other week, where we did 3 in a row. We've got the opportunity to go and do exactly the same again. So for me, we are way back into it. And let's face it, ultimately, 3 games, 3 wins within a week puts us in a position where Champions League football could be literally like we could have 1 foot in the door by Southampton. Like we literally could. Like at that point, if you look at the games, Tottenham against Man United, and then Tottenham play Liverpool after that. Villa have got some tough games. They go to Brentford at the weekend. 3 games down the line, if we back it up with 3 wins in a row, that could literally be it. Like we could be then, like the gap could be even wider than it is now, and we're right in the mix, 100%. So yeah. I just think we're in a really, really good position. But
it could be a case, Pete, that if we get 3 wins in a row, that some people on the pitch they think it's all over at the Southampton game. It'll probably be us because we'll be running around dancing, thinking we're in the Champions League. So keep an eye out for that.
Definitely. Chris, did you want to?
A little bit of breaking news, boys.
Yeah, go for it.
Breaking news. Rich Doblin. Where is he? Rich Doblin's become a member.
Yay!
I don't know if it's tonight because it hasn't popped up on the top. But mate, thank you so much for becoming a member. Daz, what was our last member count? Was it? Was
100. Yeah, it was. We got 100. I think it was David. Became the 100th member there the last day. Yeah, I only noticed myself about 4 days after the fact. But so I think Rich, then that would make you the member 101 if you're new tonight. But welcome. If anyone else wants to become a member, you have to do it from your phone and hit that join button, and you become a member, and it costs you $1.99 a month, and then you get into all the prizes, the draws that we have every now and again.
Yes.
It must be soon time to have another one as well. So
I was going to say, Daz, if we good news, and maybe what have we got our reaction show for Tottenham in the evening on Sunday?
We do.
I think maybe we do a little giveaway. So anybody, you can see there the details are on screen. If you're not already a Loaded Mag member, please consider doing so. As Daz says, it's $1.99 a month, and if you'd like to become a member, you will then be eligible for our membership draws. And we'll get a draw done on Sunday night, boys. Hopefully, it'll be on the back of a win, but I think we do the draw regardless because obviously, we've got 100 members now, which is absolutely fantastic. So thank you to everybody who is a member. But yeah, let's do a membership draw. Good way to celebrate.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Right, just to keep on the Tottenham theme before we move on, because there's a number of other things I want to discuss and we can cover tonight as a panel. Lots of talk after the Villa game about this man, and I'm not talking about John McGinn's comments about Callum Wilson. It's Dan Burn. Lots of talk in the away end at Villa, watching it live. Most people were saying in and around me, he has to be dropped. He needs time out of the team. Target needs to come on. We touched on the review show that actually, when Target came on, he didn't necessarily put up any trees. Not that he could, because the team really didn't play well. But the question I want to ask you is, going into Sunday, do you go again with Dan Burn, or do we make the change and Matty Target comes in? What are you going for? We'll go the other way around this time. Richie, we'll come to you first.
Do you know what? I said it the other day. I said it, for me, obviously, everyone's calling for Target to come in. Saying Burn needs a rest. He's not a natural fullback, and he's done well, but you need to really have an out-and-out left back, even to give a bit more of a attacking threat down that side as well. And it's, for me, because obviously both had that. Well, to be fair, Target hasn't really had any game time to pull up trees, has he? You can't really allow a 15-minute spell against Villa when we're already 2-0 down to really count, in my opinion. But for me, I think obviously, and we know that what Eddie Howe's like, he will judge the pair of them, how they train this week, how they feel that they are in themselves personally as well. Have they let any of the negative talk, as Dan Burnett had any of the negative talk by, whether he sees social media, or obviously we know he's got a local presence from being up here as well. Do his family members and friends tell him what people are saying as well, sort of thing. So we don't know if that's something that might be getting fed back to him, which is possibly being affecting his game and he's overthinking it. But for me, I think with Dan Burn, I think the one thing is he's which we discussed tonight as well, he's got to go back to just being, a no-nonsense defender. We laughed about last week. He's doing his Cruyff turns in his own half and stuff like that. He's not that sort of player. Do you know what I mean? Just go and do what you need to do. If the ball needs to go into Rose Head because you've got no one to pass to, put it in Rose Head. Put it. You can the team can get back in shape and you start again defensively. Don't try and because you're not a Willock in front of you, you're not an ASOs in front of you, you're not a Bruno. You haven't got these tricks. Just stick to your basics. Even if you turn and go back to your keeper, go back to the centre half. I know we like to try and play the ball forward and be progressive, but sometimes you have to go back and you have to recycle the ball. And I don't know. Sometimes that it feels though because he's got Shaw next to him and Botman in the side to his right, who are progressive passers. They like to break the lines. That he feels as though he has to do it as well. But we know that's just not his game. He's not an attacking fullback like Trippier is, who can get up and down, put a ball in. He can't do that really either. He's not really a crosser of the ball. He is basically a make-weight left back, and you've got to give him his dues. He's had a fantastic season doing it, but it might be getting to the point now where you just need an out-and-out left back. So there's pros and cons to both. But I don't, because we've got the 3 fixtures this week, you might see Target because he might rotate a little bit as well, just to give Burn a breather as well, because obviously with him not being the fastest, and he has to keep it with a lot of speedy wingers, which he's done a decent job with, to be fair. Yes, he's had the odd ones that cause him trouble and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, he's done all right against them, but he might just need a break as well, just to recharge the batteries. Possibly Everton, really, because do you want to? He's still part of that best defense in the Premier League at the minute. Do you really want to take him off against a Spurs team who aren't really pulling trees up attackingly at the moment? Kulusevski hasn't really set the world alight this season. Possibly Richarlison, who's been hitty-missy as well. I think if you are going to rest him and bring Target, I think it would probably be Everton again.
Missy. I like it, Richie.
So to answer the question, are you going Burn on Sunday then?
Yeah, I'd go Burn. I'd stay with Burn.
Okay. Chris, I'll come to you. Same question. Who are you going for? You going for Burn? You going for Target? Which one are we going for?
Nice, easy one for me. I would stick with Burn. I think we've spoken about, haven't we, in the summer about looking at a more permanent go forward left back. I think we know that that's probably an area of the team that we'd need to improve on, certainly for next season. But as far as I'm concerned, touching on a little bit what Richie said there, Dan Burn for the vast majority of this season has got us to where we are now. And I think for us to try and shake that up, not just it'd be disappointing for Dan Burn, but also I think it potentially upsets Botman, it potentially upsets Pope, it potentially upsets Shaw. I think we just stick with our back four, stick with our goalie. When I mentioned before about making changes, for me, I think they'd be further up the pitch. I would keep your back four and your goalie the same. Look where they've got us. Look where we are. That's down to in the main to the 5 that we've got. And I think we need to keep those 5. So for me, I would stick with Dan Burn. That's no offence to Matt Target. I think it's just about consistency at this point. And I think, some people talk about, the Keegan days when, Keegan pushed for Asprey, he pushed for David Batty. And it's like, just keep things as they are. And let's just continue as we are. And in the summer, we can review it. We can, digest it. We can go through everything. But for now, yeah, I'd stick with Ben.
Daz, come to you. Who are you going for?
We touched on this in the review show, and I do think Dan Burn needs a rest, like Lisa's saying, and could do with just a bit of a switch out. But I don't think throwing Target in there, and we already said it earlier, this is our kind of a cup final for us. It's a
Yeah.
6-pointer. Is it
I
the right
agree.
game to throw them in? I would kind of face them off together in training and see who's looking the best in training, and then make how make a call. But on paper, on what we've seen, taking everything into consideration, I'd be thinking Burn as well. That doesn't fill me with confidence, but on recent performances, but I think it would be Burn.
Yeah.
Can I jump in just a quick, Pete? When you asked before about what the message would be to Eddie Howe for the weekend, the message is clean sheet. This weekend is clean sheet. And get back to basics. Touching a little bit on what she was saying, back to basics. Just keep thinking clean sheet. Because if we keep a clean sheet, we don't get beat. Simple as.
Yeah.
Sorry, carry on, Pete.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. Our great form the first half of the season was built on clean sheets and really good defensive performances. We do need to get back to that. And to be fair, Saturday proved that at 110%. I think Daz made a really good point. I think Eddie Howe, for the first time this season, will genuinely look at both players in training. Eddie Howe talked about it before. He talks about how players perform in training will determine whether they start. I think he said something similar about ASM a couple of weeks ago. Training well, so he starts. I think for the first time he would genuinely do that. But I genuinely believe that going into the game, training aside, that Dan Burn will be on the team sheet. I think he'll start. I actually think if Matt Target starts any of these games, it'll be against Southampton.
I was just about to say that'd be the perfect game to throw him in and just give him a free shot at it.
Yeah, it's like with all due respect to Southampton, you kind of get the more trickier fixtures out the way because they are trickier fixtures because of the players and the grounds that we're going to. Southampton, bottom of the league, they're really struggling at the moment. Every team seems to be turning them over, whether it's home or away. That would be the game to bring Target in. And give him his confidence boost and give him his opportunity to basically stake his claim to stay in the team. If he performs well against Southampton, he potentially stays in the team. Equally, we'll probably have more of the ball and he'll be able to be more progressive in his left back play. You'll see him overlap. You'll see him get balls into the box. So that's kind of where I see that one. But I do believe that Burn will start. I do think he'll go with him unless there is a massive change of mindset and there's an upturn in Target's performances in training, which means that he cannot be left out. But we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see with that one. I just want to just flag up. Thank you to Cole Seggy, who dropped this into my DMs just during the show. We talked about the series of everyone going to of Newcastle playing in the States, and obviously he is part of the Tsunami Atlanta, and he's wanted me to say on behalf of us at Loaded, just anybody that's going to the States to watch the games, to watch Newcastle play, particularly when you're in Atlanta, these will be handed out, so you'll get an opportunity to get one of these. I have to say, Carl Seggy, if you have any spare, I would love to have one of them, and I'm sure the boys would love to have one of them as well. So if there's a way in which you can send one over to us, we would massively appreciate that. But anyone going over there, look out for these bad boys because they will be out and about during our tour of the States, particularly in Atlanta. So keep a lookout for those ones as well.
I'll say that they're class them, Pete, mate. They're really smart.
Yeah, they're top stuff. So like I say, Carl, I'm not sure if he's still in the chat, could well be. Get in touch, let us know, and we'll try and sort out a way in which you can send some over for us boys Right, we're going to move just very quickly on. Massive shout out. Someone else put it in the chat earlier on to Alexander Isak, who's been voted as PFA Premier League Fans Player of the Month for March. Well deserved. It was a great March, and he was absolutely on top form. Hopefully, more to come before the season's out. So, great shout out for him. I want to get your thoughts on this, and we're kind of moving away into a different direction here, lads. There was something put on by Aaron Stokes in the Chronicle today, and he talked about Newcastle have drawn up and submitted new plans to improve the club's training ground. So there's talks about the gym being extended, various different new types of technology rooms being created on the back of what they've already got. And those plans have been submitted to extend and expand what they currently have within the training ground. I just want to get your thoughts on this move, but equally, where does it sit us, in your opinions, with the potential of building a brand new training facility? Where does this news today put you in your mind about where this is going to go in terms of a new facility? Chris, I'll start with you.
When you say when you ask that question, Pete, are you talking in terms of like stadium, or are you talking in terms of like longevity? How long before we move there, do you mean, or
training ground? Yeah. So what I'll say is, at the beginning, when we first had the takeover, every single Newcastle fan said, we need a new training ground.
Yeah.
Training ground's not good enough. We need a new training ground, blah, 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 blah. The owners came in and said, we need a new training ground. It's not good enough. We've made adjustments to this current training ground.
Right, yeah.
We're now looking to make additional adjustments to this training ground. So with this new submission, where does it put your thoughts about a new training ground? And, does it, for example, push it back for you and it's going to be longer in the process and waiting for that training ground to come about? Or does it mean that we don't need a new training ground right now? I don't know. What are your initial thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, mate, I always felt like that this new training ground was always going to happen. I think with all due respect, we did about 15, 20 years ago have one of the best training grounds, and obviously it's been left. It's been, we've been overtaken by many other clubs. And I think the way the owners have looked at it, probably similar to how they're looking at maybe the extension of the Gallagher, in that they're thinking for the short, medium term, let's improve where we are. But I think the long-term aim is always to have this new training facility. I don't think the new training facility will happen in the next 2 seasons, possibly 3 seasons, because I think this training facility is going to be incredible. I think it's going to be a huge building, a huge project. So therefore, I think they're probably investing money into the training ground as it is now, with the plan to be there for at least the next 18, 24 months, if not longer. And then we'll move into the new training facility. That's how I see it. Whether or not that's the case, and they throw it up and within a year we're there. But for them to pump the money that they have done into the current training facilities, I would say, we spoke, didn't we, about short to medium term, medium to long term. I would very much class this new training ground as short to medium term, whereas in terms of the stadium expansion, whilst I think that's probably short to medium term, it wouldn't surprise me. Again, I don't know anything. This is just my own personal opinion. Whether in the medium to long term, we possibly start looking at a new stadium altogether, because I think over the next 3, 4, 5 years, a lot of focus will be on the pitch and what we're doing on the pitch and the squads and things like that. So for me, to answer your question, I think this new training facility will be readily available probably in the next 2 to 3 years. And I think for now, they're just looking at, putting everything in place, taking the time over it, making sure it's right, making sure it's spot on, and probably making sure it's the best one in the league, which I have no doubt it will be.
Okay. No, I think you made some great points there. Daz, I'll come to you with regards to the training ground. So obviously, Chris has made some really, really good points with regards to that and his thoughts about what it might mean for our future new training ground that we might build. What are your initial thoughts initially about the improvements that they've submitted, but then equally what it means for our potential state-of-the-art brand new facility that we were looking to eventually build?
Well, I'd not seen that story today, and it actually caught me by surprise there now because one, I knew they were obviously updating the existing one. It definitely needed a revamp, but I thought that would be it. No, and then it was next step was to, because I know Richie and myself were talking about where would it be located, and we're talking about potential locations. Like, I know my Newcastle geography. I was talking to Richie about it. Really, he was telling me where all these places were. But no, and I thought it seemed a bit strange that they've gone to phase one and they've upgraded. Now they're looking at a phase two upgrade as well. So it does look like it's longer down the road then for the new training facility, but it will come in time. It's a project like everything else; it will take time. And the other thing is that, okay, just because they're doing up the existing one, they'll do it up. It'll make it more attractive to sell on as well. Someone else will be able to buy the facility, and the better equipped it is, the better price they'll get for it as well. So we it does sound like now the new training ground is going to be kind of a long-term kind of build, let's say. It'll take a bit of time. It wouldn't be as quick as we thought maybe originally it would be.
Richie, are you in agreement with Dad? Do you think now, with the news of the new submission of what they would like to do to expand this current training ground at Benton, do you think it's now going to extend on where we're going to be waiting longer for the brand new, fully fresh, state-of-the-art, best in Europe type training ground that we were all kind of looking forward to when the owners first came in?
I still think it's going to happen. I'd still think it'll happen within the next 3 to 4 years, possibly. But obviously, you've got to look at our training ground when they took over wasn't even to the standard of some League One training grounds. Do you know what I mean? That it was so far behind the facilities, and you look at what they've put in there so far under the phase one, as you've mentioned. And obviously, we don't know whether this extension's the last part of phase one either, or whether to phase two or whatever. But what you've got to look at is the improvements that they've made in 18 months. Obviously, they've worked with Eddie Howe, finding out what he wants from his players, and there was a fantastic article as well about the statistical analysis. Like, was it from an Irish company actually based near Dars over in the west of Ireland as well? And Newcastle are like one of the longest users of this. So, and it goes into the statistics of the medical side of things about recovery and stuff like that, and the workout, every minute little detail about what a player is going through, how they need to recover afterwards as well, and stuff like that. So all that sort of stuff will be getting implemented in the new training ground as well. What's going on now, and if you look at the fitness levels of a lot of our players now, the fact that we cover the most ground in games as well, and the high press is always there as well. We keep that going from minute one right to the final minutes as well. So they're obviously implementing some fantastic like sports science stuff behind the stage. But I think what you've got to look at, and Lisa makes a fantastic point about this, there's nothing to say that obviously the new training facilities, obviously me and Dad did have a private conversation about this a few months ago, will still get built and it will be a state of the art. But who's to say that someone like the ladies team could not inherit Darsley Park where they're at now? Because those facilities will be a fantastic, if we're saying 3 to 4 year time scale for the potential new one for the men's team and the men's academy, or however might get done. If you look at the women's team, that's a fantastic facility to be walking into if they're going to be in pushing for the WSL then, or the women's championship. Because the 3 to 4 years, that's the perfect time scale for the way that Amanda wants the ladies team to progress as well. So they could be knocking on the top 1, top 2 tier leagues in the women's game. So that facility will be fantastic for their needs, for them just to take over and be the tenants of that training ground. Or they might decide to keep it as just an academy, just for the youngsters down there, because obviously you've got the indoor bit as well for the kids, and the women might be going to the new training ground. There's so many possibilities that they can do with it, but I think it's probably just an extension of phase 1 now, but that new one will come 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, it's it's an interesting theory for that. I think it, as long as the club are happy to continue to fund that as a women's training facility and maybe the academy, I think both of them together would probably work. Having it as the part of the kids academy too for boys and girls, that would be a good one. But again, it goes into our facility and the big facility. We've talked about it before. It's a big thing in attracting players. It's better than it was, but still, if you match it up with some of the best out there, Brighton, Leicester, Tottenham, I think Arsenal's, like some of theirs are some of the best around. And ultimately, our owners are going to want at some point that level of facility. Eddie Howe and his staff are going to want that level of facility, because as we build as a club, in my opinion, that sometimes can be the difference. Like you go way back to Mike Ashley's tenure, where we had pictures on Sky Sports News of Luka Modric coming into our training facility and looking at that. And then literally within 24, 48 hours later, going down to Tottenham's that wasn't what it is now, but was still significantly better. And just going to and experiencing those facilities, that's the decision made, because they're going to want to know in their mind what they're coming into every day. And so at some point, our selling of the club and the project is going to need to involve the facilities that are around it. You know what we're like as a club. What is the one thing that we always sell as a club to players coming in, even in the Ashley era and now? What do you think? What is it that we always sell that we have as a facility that is just as great as anyone else's in the Premier League?
Greg?
Yes.
I was going to say, if you go off what Sir Bobby Robson said from the quiz, it's the Quayside and the girls, apparently. Then you take up to St James's Park afterwards.
That as well. But what's the priority? Where do they play every week?
St James's Park.
There you go. And that facility, that stadium, is one of the iconic stadiums in the Premier League. Every player that comes into this country, I remember Gini Wijnaldum coming in from PSV, and he talked about the stadium, and he walked in and see the video, and he goes,
a wow video.
Yeah, exactly. That's the wow factor. We've got the wow factor in St James's Park because we've got one of the best, if not the best, in my opinion, for atmosphere, for culture, for everything in terms of that stadium. It means so much. And when a player comes and experiences that, they have that feeling. Like Sven Botman's talked about it, Nick Pope's talked about it, Callum Wilson talked about it. All these players coming out of that feeling. When they're going into training every day, they're going to want that same feeling. And at some point, the players that we're going to want to attract to come to Newcastle United are going to want that feeling coming into training every day. And that's for me is a big thing.
I think one thing that could be that we may not be privy to, obviously, is for all we know is that they could have a new training ground already drawn up and blueprints down and stuff. That they're just waiting for the right plot to become available or to be signed off by council or whoever's going is responsible for or is the area not up for sale or they're negotiating. But when we're negotiating with players and trying to bring them in, obviously you take St James's Park because as you said, Pete, it's iconic. You know what I mean? That's where they're going to be playing pretty much every other week. But you're right. You need the training ground to back it up. We don't know that those blueprints aren't there already to show them and say, look, this is what you've got for now. In 2 years' time, this is what's you're going to have. You're going to have this. You're at say Ajax now. It's got a fantastic academy. However, this is going to be 5 times better than that with all the facilities and stuff like that. So we don't know. That could be part of the selling technique already. Anyway, we don't know. But if you look at when Amanda came in, she said there was different stages to, how they wanted the club to progress, and obviously we're beyond expectations for where we are on the pitch at the moment, and perhaps the behind the scenes with like the infrastructure and the training ground and stuff like that will take a little bit longer, because you've seen all the amount of job vacancies that they're recruiting at the moment, because the departments that we had previously were just so understaffed. But we were talking about 2 weeks ago that they've brought in those 7 new regional scouts just for the academy. That's, for all we know, they said there's going to be some new officers for some of the recruitment staff, so it could be them. They could be having, an extra 2 to go under, the head regional scout somewhere down south and have a couple of part-time, because obviously you can't cover the same ground. You know what I mean? You want to be taking as many games as possible in junior level, because obviously you know as well, Peter, you've been a coach as grassroots and stuff as well. You can't cover every blade of grass in in a weekend. It's impossible. So, one of the things that was always a bugbear for me when I was grassroots coaching, you have players at different ability levels. You have, you seeded your top teams that used to play first thing in the morning. And you used to see the scouts go to all them. But how's to say that there's not some late developers, some fantastic kids that play, 2-3 hours down or play at a different site? Because obviously there's that many teams. They've got to cover various different sites as well. It needs to be expanded. And it's right what they said about the academy. It was so far behind Sunderland, which is it's awful to say. Their Academy of Light's been there for the kids. I've had mates who've had their kids at Newcastle and Sunderland at both stages, and they said they would take the kids to Sunderland, and they're Newcastle fans as well, because they're looking away that it's been for them, their welfare, their kids' welfare. But obviously that's in the past now. Newcastle want to take that forward, and this is all going to be part of this going forward with the new training ground and academy going forward. So this facility is a stopgap. I still think 3 to 4 years we'll have that new one, and this will be either women's or academy facilities.
No, that's fair. The only thing I do worry about, I said worry about, I don't worry about it, but the only thing we've got to think about maybe on top of that is, and so I'm not sure if someone was joking or someone made a good point. I think it could well be right. Is that Leicester's training ground took around 77 weeks to make and to put in place and be ready to open. That's something that we're going to have to consider. If it's 77 weeks for a state-of-the-art training facility to be made, that's what we're going to have to consider and put that together. But it's just something that we're going to have to think about moving forward. Are there any questions before we move on to the next to any other talking points? What have we got?
There's a few things start here, Pete. Right, let's go where we start. Okay, let's probably link into one of the two of your talking points, though, Pete. Well, if it does, we'll revert back. Well, first one here is from Drew. What's people's thoughts that we're going to have 20 million transfer budget in the summer? That's one. Is that one of the topics you're going to bring up, Pete? I think it's probably no. I'd say that's bullshit, Drew. I wouldn't worry about that. We're going to.
I think Pete's frozen disgust at that question.
Yeah, he has.
He's still reading it. Give him a chance. You get there.
Do you know what? Just to respond to that, Daz, I think unfortunately, I think a few people in the chat said it as well. I think it's all pie in the sky. I mean, for me personally, I know Drew said in past tense there that we were going to have 20 million, and I think, let's be honest, lads. If we finished outside the European places at the start of the season, we were all saying maybe 8th, maybe 9th, something like that. I think we'd have spent more than 20 million. Even if we got into Europa Conference, Europa League, I think we'd spend more than 20 million. And now I'm 99.9% sure we are going to spend more than 20 million. I think, because I also read that article and it was talking about player sales. And I was thinking, well, I can't really imagine the player sales are going to be that much either. For me, yeah.
Well, you might sell ASM or something and get pretty much 20 million plus, but then the rest of them are all free transfers and you have to get off the wage bill.
Exactly. I think, no matter where we finish this season, I would expect us to spend at least 60, 70 million. And that's not taking into account what we're doing this season. Because I think if we finish in the Champions League places, you can probably add another 60 million onto that. So I would say, and again, this is just my gut feeling, it's not anything I know or anything, but I would be surprised if we didn't spend at least 120 million this summer window, at least.
Yeah,
I think you'll spend more than that.
Yeah.
I genuinely do. You've got to look at the fact that you've got a new shirt sponsor coming in, which that if Newcastle get Champions League football, they can charge a lot more for it because their advertisement of this, their company is going to be all around Europe in the highest, having the best viewers possible. So they're going, Newcastle will be able to charge. It's the perfect time to be negotiating sponsorships. If it had been Europa League, you might turn around and if you get Europa League, obviously you could have a slide and scale that if you qualify for you, they have to give you a bit more, and that could be still the case with this one. Do you know what I mean? Because as Simon Jordan mentioned today on Talk Sport, there's more. If Newcastle get Champions League this season, there's more pressure to do it next year. But because obviously next year is going to be harder because will Chelsea be as bad next year? Will Liverpool be as bad next year? Will Spursy be as Spursy next year? Probably, but on that one. But
we need to.
There's the pressure to be consistent next year for Newcastle. Yeah. We've invaded this year. We've started to take, but now then you've got to build on it again. You've got to fine tweak it and stuff like that, and you can't rest on your laurels because then you could do a West Ham. You get into the semi-final of a European competition last year, and now you're fighting relegation. You could be, on the boards of possibly going out of the league. We don't want to be in that scale again. We need to be kicking on every single year and fighting for top four every year as well. So it's huge, but
it's all for me. It's all dependent on where we got what European competition we're going to land in, and it's very difficult to try and come up with a figure of what we will spend. I think we'll spend whatever we can spend, and what financial fair play will allow.
I'd be intrigued to see whether they get, because obviously I don't know whether you guys saw the rumored Enzo Fernandez contract got reworked again with Chelsea last week, which I thought was really interesting. Obviously, I know Daz, I don't know whether you saw that, Chris, but there was the rumor that they signed a new contract and it was now a 10-year contract that he was on. And it's literally all about FFP. Now, of course, UEFA have changed the FFP rules from this summer that you can't sign more than a 5-year contract. But I think that comes in July or August. I'm not sure. So if you could sign some pre-contract deals before that starts, say, June the 1st or something like that, could you have an extended contract, like a 7-year contract or whatever, rather than being tied down to the 5? Because obviously if you're down to the 5, that's going to really restrict your FFP, because if you sign someone for 100 million, you've got to carry 20 million each year for the next 5 years. Whereas if you do 100 million over 7 years, it's considerably less. Do you know what I mean? 7-8 year contract, 8-year contract, 12.5 million, you're saving 7.5 million a year. It's just have to wait and see what the crack is like, but it's interesting.
Pete, your thoughts on potential 20 million budget? I want to say a different word for this summer. Question from Drew.
Bullshit.
That was my answer. Let's move on. Right.
I apologise. My internet's absolutely crap at the moment, so it's in and out. But yeah, I did hear your question. It is absolute bullshit. As I said to you boys before, said at the end of January, we will sign 3 to 4 first team ready players this summer. That does not mean that we've got a £20 million budget. There is no way. 3 to 4 first team ready players, as in first team ready to come into this first 11 and start on a regular basis. So therefore, you know what it is. I went to grab some ice.
It actually is.
Whilst it was reloading up, I thought, you know what? Why not get some ice?
Why not take advantage?
Take advantage. Recharge. But yeah, look, let's be honest. It was never going to be 20 million. We will never have it. I'll put it out there now. We will never have a 20 million pound budget
Never again.
under this ownership. We will never have a 20 million pound budget under this ownership. There is no way.
I think the thing you could bear in mind though, as well, is if you look at, we're looking at people like Marcus Thuram who are on free transfers. You want that sort of quality player coming in, and it doesn't cost the club anything FFP wise. That's the thing, that we really aiming for people like that, and he'd be a fantastic, alternative on that forward line, to complement Isak and Wilson, because obviously he can play on the flanks as well, but he can play through the middle as well. He's a fantastic player, and if we can get him on a free, that'd be phenomenal.
Do the wages fall into the FFP as well, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's not as much. You can only have so many budget on percentage of the income on wages and stuff like that. At the moment, Newcastle are pretty high up for what they've got, but obviously there's a lot of players on long-term contracts, and if you look at what Shelby was on and stuff like that, if you can get them out, but that's the reason why we can't break the wage structure at the minute, because we're high on that threshold at the moment. You're going to have to get some high earners out and then replace people on that similar sort of wage, but obviously you're bringing the quality back in. It's like if you look at what people are saying, Declan Rice, Mason Mount type players, their wages will be a problem because of where they're at now. Players like James Ward-Prowse, Harvey Barnes, James Maddison, their wages would fit into the structure of Newcastle's, what they've got at the moment, the wage structure. So it all falls on that. If you could get James Maddison on the same wage as you've got for John Joe Shelby, your wage doesn't change, but the quality of your squad improves drastically.
Yeah.
We saved a bit from getting rid of John Joe and for the last 6 months. But anyway, let's move on to the question.
A week, they reckon does.
Yeah. Shout out to Oliver, who's going to be there for the Southampton game as well. We might see you when we're over. We're in the Jesmond Dean, Oliver. So yeah, you might bump into.
We nearly booked that hotel one as well, didn't we?
Yeah, Jesmond Dean. Yeah, we nearly did.
Yeah.
I don't know. We that's where we stand. Sorry, Jesmond Dean. That's the one. Right, let's move on. No, this is the one here I want to go to. Kamal, and do you think Gordon starts in the Everton game? We're moving forward onto the Everton game.
Great question.
I'll kick it off and say no. See, I forget which podcast I saw it on, but I was watching a podcast the other night, and I think it might have been Tomb of You actually, and somebody said, whether it be Billy or whoever, said Anthony Gordon's not right for this game because why would we rile them anymore? And I agree with that. If Anthony Gordon's in that starting 11, yes, Anthony Gordon may thrive off it and whatever, but let's not give the Everton fans more reason to be more ferocious. Because if Anthony Gordon starts for Newcastle, I think it just gives Everton fans more reason to really, get on the players' backs, and more notably Anthony Gordon. And God forbid, if he got sent off or something, I just don't think it'd be the right move. I really don't. Not saying he can't come on, but I wouldn't start him.
I think there's logic in that statement there, Chris. And yeah, as an impact or for 1-0 up or something like that might be more.
If we win a 3-0, bring him on. That'd be funny.
Yeah.
But not starting when the game's in the balance. No.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I'd rather see him at Southampton game or even the Spurs game. Anyone else on that one, Gordon?
I don't think he will either.
Not for me.
No.
I think he'll get some minutes. Like I said, I think it was going a bit sketchy, but I think if Chris said, I think if we're winning, bring him on towards the end and whatever. I would love that. Yeah. One of those ones. Or if he bagged. You
can guarantee him score the winner, can't you?
I tell you what, I'd pay big money to be in the away end for that one, because he's celebrating. He's celebrating. He's running into the crowd. He's getting a yellow card.
He's going to one of them, He's going to one of them. He's doing it.
The Everton fans as well. Oh yes.
You might need to get a helicopter out of Goodison then, though.
I know, but imagine he's done a Rooney and kissed the badge or something.
That would be even sweeter. I saw
Hell
a
yeah.
comment just to deflect. I saw a comment from Alan about Villa fans getting on me because of my comments about Villa before the game.
Oh
The only
yeah.
reason they're mad at me is because I still don't rate Tyrone Mings. Tyrone Mings had an okay game. The guy's shit. I'd still have Lascelles in front of him. I'd still have Jamal Lascelles in front of Tyrone Mings. The guy's shit. And just because he had a good game and he got a clean sheet, they're now saying, "Oh, Isaac's in his pocket, Wilson's in his pocket." They do forget that we smashed them at St James's Park 4-0, and he was an absolute clown. He's still a clown, and he'll be a clown. And Unai Emery, if he wants Aston Villa to be any good, he gets rid of Mings if he knows what's good for him. So that's why the Villa fans are getting on at me, because even though I've given them plenty of compliments, they were great. They played well. Watkins was superb. I really rate Konza. Watch him closely. I think he's a good player, a good centre back. But they love Mings and they hate the fact that I don't rate him, and I still don't. And I'll continue not to, because he's shit.
No mercy for Mings. Right, the one from William Smith. Any word on ASM? Is he back training in Newcastle? I haven't heard anything else. Since no one has any confirmation.
I heard a few people in the I didn't hear. I saw a few people in the chat saying that in the training video, which I've not watched yet, they heard someone shouting Maxi. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they purposely left him out the video, because why would Eddie Howe or Newcastle want to confirm that he's fit and ready to go? But if we heard Maxi,
that's it.
Have you heard it, Pete? Have you watched it?
I've not watched it all. I've watched the first part of it. But Chris, Maxi will be back in Newcastle. He'll be training with the boys. Newcastle are very, very smart. They used to do it under Ashley quite a lot with players that we weren't sure were going to be fit. They do it even more so now. They cut players out on purpose. When you see the photos come out, you don't see certain photos of certain players. And then all of a sudden, they just pop up into the matchday squad. So what? They've been in the gym all day. No, they've been training, but they are told not to show certain players. Maxi will be one of them. And what they want is they want Tottenham to be guessing. Maxi, I believe personally, Maxi will be in the squad Sunday.
Shithousery at its finest, isn't it?
What's that?
Shithousery at its finest, isn't it?
One here from our member Rich Jobling, so we must give another shout out, Rich, because you played Chris lovely that one, Rich. But make sure you do it in the next show as well. Are we not a bit concerned about the manner of the defeat at the weekend? Other defeats have seen us play well and been unlucky to lose. I'm just a bit concerned. Should I be? Thoughts?
No. I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not concerned if it's the worst game of the season and we don't have it again. If it happens again, I'd be concerned. If it doesn't happen, I don't think it will.
Yeah, a blip.
Not concerned.
I think Rich is right to be concerned, because what we did see against Villa was a standout. It's not like And I saw again. I'm talking about other podcasts here. I won't name them, but I know other podcasts were talking about saying, "Oh, I've seen this coming. It's been coming for weeks." Like, that wasn't coming for weeks. What we saw at the weekends. I know we had a poor first half against Brentford, but we changed it up. But I can see why people are nervous. Don't get me wrong, because you never like going into such an important game off the back of something like that. It's a possibility, and it's a good chance for us to bounce back from that. But I do get Rich. I do understand Rich Doblin when he says, I'm a bit concerned, because it's not like we've just battered Villa 3-0 at their place and then we're going into it all buzzing. So I can see why he's a little bit pessimistic. But I totally agree with what Rich has just said, and said, well, I'll be concerned if it happens again, but I don't think it will happen again.
Chris, I think is getting a kick up the arse has been coming.
Yeah.
You look at the West Ham game, we hit the post within the first minute or so, Bruno Guimaraes, because we were slow to start.
Not them.
Yeah.
They were trying to claim it, weren't they? Oh, we hit the post. No, you didn't.
Hit his own post. in the first minute because we couldn't handle the fast start that West Ham had. We settled into the game. We got the goal. Things were easy. We then gave Brentford 45 minutes to basically tear us apart and cause problems. And then we turned up and we made it. We ended up winning the game. We turned it around. So it has been coming that we were going to get a kick up the arse or maybe even a loss. But yeah, you're right. It was the manner of the defeat. It was 94 minutes of being kind of pummeled into the ground. And that hasn't happened this season. No other team, including the teams that beat us, Man City and Liverpool, have done that to us. I don't believe we'll see that again this season. That's my opinion.
Right, let's move on. As last one, and this will probably lead us back into you, some of the items you were going to bring up, Pete. But there's Luke Edwards has a shopping list, a Sean Casey-esque style shopping list. Sorry, Sean, it won't be the same as yours. Don't worry about that. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that? And anyone seen that? Anyone thought?
Yeah.
I saw halfway down. I gave up reading it. Because there's so many names listed.
I think he just basically thought about, wrote down any player that might potentially be on the move. That was that seemed about it, really. Do you know what I mean? And I think that the interesting was that Sean Casey turned around that Newcastle's two main targets weren't even on the list either.
Yeah. You look at the article. I've got to be honest, and people might not agree with me on this. I don't agree with Luke Edwards and how he treated the Newcastle fans over the takeover and the things that he said and the fact that he wound us up. I've been very, very vocal of that even during that process. But actually, I think a lot of what Luke Edwards has said recently in the last year or so has been close to the button. Not necessarily on budgets, but on players. So he was one of the first to report about Nick Pope. He was also one of the first to report weeks before about Alexander Isak, before anybody else had even caught wind of it. And the thing that I think's twisted a lot of people on this is that Luke Edwards has been very, very cautious with his reporting on how much Newcastle United are likely to spend. The fact that he's come out and said, big spending coming, we're going for it in the summer, that says a lot, because he doesn't put stuff like that out quite easily. Like, he gets shit all the time and he takes it. He's not worried about that. But the fact that he's come out and said, Newcastle United are looking to spend big this summer, that tells me that Newcastle United are looking to spend big this summer. Now, some people might not believe him. Some people might say, yeah, Luke Edwards talks crap, blah, blah, blah. No reporter, no journalist gets everything right. Craig Hope, superb. Speak to the guy regularly, great guy. Doesn't always get things right. No journalist gets everything right, but Luke Edwards is probably as close to Craig Hope in getting things right as anybody else. And if he's putting that out, I'm inclined to believe that could well be the case. We've talked about it. We've all said, I think we're going to spend big. We're going to go for it, particularly if we get Champions League. So I'm excited by it. I don't believe the list of names that he's given me on the article. I think that is where there's kind of a grey area there, but there always is with players. There's some players that I would love on there, but there's some players that I'm thinking on that list is not realistic for us and that we won't get. But I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
No, I think you've got to agree with it. You're right. He was awful during the takeover process, but to back up what you said, he was at the Evening Chronicle event that I was with Andrew Musgrove, Aaron Stokes as well, and Luke Edwards came across really, really well with some of the stuff that he said. So I'll back you up on that one you said there, Pete.
BDK's put that he was wrong on every budget he's put out. I agree with you. I didn't say he was right about the budgets, and I did say there's some certain things that he's not been right on. But on players coming to the club, he has been right on a number of things, and he has put out things ahead of a number.
The thing is,
we
the
know
list
figures
he's put
aren't a
out.
strong point because, sorry, Rich, I was going to say we know figures aren't a strong point because in the article he says that we're getting 12 million for Chris Wood, which I think is widely known not to be the truth.
Yeah.
No, we got 19, wasn't it? It was about 19 we got from, wasn't it, by the time they're taking the loan fee and stuff like that. So, no, I think the list that you put out there, that could just be people who are knowingly going to be made available this year, who Newcastle could be interested in. It could genuinely be people that Newcastle are interested in, or it could genuinely be players who are interested in the move to Newcastle. That's probably what that list is, and he's compiled them from all three sources, or wherever his sources are, put them onto one list and thought, well, this is going to be a talking point. And there's probably going to be some of those names on that list, as Pete said, will be right. But there's some of them that'll be so far from the truth, it's unbelievable.
I'll add something onto that with regards to journalism, right? And I would be absolutely, in fact, I'm not going to say I'm going to be shocked. I'm pretty confident that this is the case. Now, Luke Edwards has put that list of players out, and people have put that list out. Oh, we're going for him. That's great. I can guarantee you, on the back of what Richie's just said, that there are agents that are out there that are telling and communicating with the likes of Luke Edwards and Craig Hope and many others to put their name out there, to get their name out there for the summer. So some of those names on there. And I'll throw one out there. I'll throw Mitoma out there, for example. Mitoma's at his highest point right now, his highest selling point. He's had a really, really good season. Surprised that I've only looked at, I think he's only scored like 7 Premier League goals. I thought he'd scored more than that, but he's had a really, really good season. He's at his highest selling point right now, and this is an opportunity for him to potentially move on. That's probably why he's on the list. The agents probably said, yeah, pop his name on the list. And what does it mean to someone like Luke Edwards to pop his name on the list? Nothing. But what it does, it creates a connection with him and the agent. So he can go to them and have that conversation. And this is how the best journalists do their work. They communicate with the right people, whether it's at the club or agents, and they get their information from different places, different sources. So when things break, if they're in the circle of trust, they get the information first. And that's just how it works. But in terms of budget, PDK is absolutely right. He's been shocking with it. And look, I think we always knew that we were going to spend more than 50 million last year. I mean, come on, like, it wasn't even really news. And whoever put out that we were going to have a budget of 20 million just doesn't know Newcastle United under this ownership. They just really don't.
I was going to say, lads, have we got a list of the players? I have seen the list of the players.
I have. I've got it here. I've got it here, actually.
Yeah.
So the list was James Maddison, Mitoma, Caicedo, Jared Bowen, Declan Rice, Conor Gallagher, Ivan Toney, Kieran Tierney, Calvin Phillips, Scott McTominay, Harvey Barnes, Marcus Thuram, Gabri Veiga, Moussa Diaby, Victor Osimhen, and Kavisha Kvaratskhelia. Sorry, I had to say that for Dad.
Very brave, that, Rich. That last one was very brave, got to say. do you know what? Touching on one of them, just because Pete's touched on it as well, it's going to be very, very, very difficult to get Mitoma out of Brighton, in my opinion, because they are going to want silly money. Yeah. And I don't think anyone's going to pay that money. Alexis McAllister is going to have a similar problem getting out of Brighton, because they're going to turn around and they're going to say, well, we want 80 million. He's a World Cup winner. And is anyone going to pay 80 million for Alexis McAllister?
You throw in there, Chris, they're playing European football next season.
Yeah.
For the first time in their history. You think they're going to want to let Caicedo, Mitoma, McAllister, you think they're going to want to let those players go?
They knocked 75 million back from Arsenal for Caicedo.
There you go.
They're going to be wanting. They're going to if Caicedo's probably there dueling the crown. I admit, but Mitoma is now right up there. Alexis McAllister is right up there. We haven't even spoke about Evan Ferguson.
Yeah,
people have already sold it.
What mega money for him?
People have already sold off Evan Ferguson. I watch Sky Sports and you got people like Gary Neville and all the rest of them talking like Evan Ferguson.
Like Man U own him.
Yeah, like they've already bought him. He ain't going anywhere.
No.
And to be
Why
fair,
would he?
His development is best served at Brighton.
Yeah.
What better way to play at Brighton where you're going to play every week and play European football? This is what, and this goes back to the point. Matoma, it goes back to the point what I said. Matoma, his agent, probably put his name out there because he wants him to make a move, because the agent makes the money. But the reality of it, as you just said, you, Richie, absolutely spot on. The reality of it is that they're not going to move. They're not going anywhere. So that name just gets chalked off the list there and then.
Yeah, and
We've got to remember as well, we know for a fact, boys, how many times have we had a name just out the blue? Nick Pope was one of them. Nick Pope was one of them in the summer. Like
that Dan Burn was as well. When Dan Burn came.
Yeah, he was.
We are the list, like the conversations that we have on players that are being talked about. You know, some of these players, I'm convinced that they are well down the list. I've got no background information. None of us have, because we're not that way inclined. We just talk on opinion. As a fan, this is what we do on Loaded Mag NUFC. And my hunch is that these players, Scott McTominay being case in point, I think is Eddie Howe interested in him? Yeah, I think he likes him. But is he top of the list? Nah, not a chance. And you talk about Ward-Prowse, and that's another one we brought up. He's going to be allowed to leave Southampton. Is he going to be a Newcastle player? I personally don't believe so. Although we've been attached to it, I don't believe so. Why are we going to pay 50 million for him when we wouldn't pay 50 million for James Maddison?
He's 29 as well. He's older than what Newcastle are looking at now. You look at people like 26 and under, like and 21-year-olds that are a great age that we always keep saying every week.
Great age. Great age.
We're not going to want 29 because 29 isn't a great age.
I agree to be 29 right now.
Yeah.
Just to add in as well, didn't James Ward-Prowse sign a bumper deal with Southampton?
I think he's got still at least another 2 years left on his contract.
He must be on at least 120, 150 a week. Must be.
They reckon the wage wouldn't be an issue, Chris. They reckon it'd fall into our structure, but it's the fact is, do you want to be spending that on a 29-year-old who, as a midfielder, isn't very dynamic himself? You know, do you know what I mean? He doesn't set the world alight. Yes, he's a fantastic set piece taker, and it would give another weapon to us, like in and around the box. But we're not like the NFL now. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like you have a specialist kicker to come on just for. That's pretty much what James Ward-Prowse would be. He'd be a specialist set piece taker. We don't need that.
Exactly.
Lads, we veered into fully loaded transfer show for
I know.
The chat has gone mad. People throwing names, everything right there. Don't worry, we've got a full summer ahead of talking names, talking individuals, different people's opinions, all the people who focus on a certain league and getting their opinions. You know what we do here, and bringing on people to bounce our ideas off as well. So that's all ahead. There's plenty of time. Let us finish out the season first, and then we can dream of the possibilities after that.
Another one. What do you make of the club or the branch, the brand expansion that's come out from a friend of the channel, as they all are? Mark Douglas has wrote from our paper. Newcastle owners inundated with offers to buy new clubs, starting with relegated Belgium side KV Oostende, if I'm pronouncing that right.
Oostende.
Okay. It says Newcastle step up plans to emulate Man City as a multi-club model, but owners are cautious about investing in leagues they know little about. And so the expansion is there with is it Oostende? So what do you guys make of that? What do you make of Newcastle looking at potentially other clubs to expand the brand that PIF are obviously clearly looking to build?
For me, I did read a bit of detail about the other one a week ago. It's like the transfer rumors. It's the club rumors that we're going to be they will be our feeder clubs kind of thing. But this one I kind of read a small bit. I think Wolves are in the mix as well. Looking at this club, but it's all very exciting, you know, and it's it would be great. Then whoever we do link up with, pair up with, I plan to hopefully take them on as my club in that region and keep an eye on them, and then with the players at that club and hopefully getting game time. Unlike Garen Carroll, so quality game time minutes on the pitch and develop, and we can watch them grow. But yeah, bring it on. There'll probably be more links, Pete, pop up every now and again as well, similar to players. But hopefully there is something happening in the background.
Interesting.
It's going to happen, Pete. It's going to happen. You know what I mean? We are going to get different clubs out there, and I know that Ostend have just been relegated from the top flight in Belgium, so they're going. So another reason why it'll be, you know, looking to buy as well as they'll get it for a better price, because obviously they're not a top flight Belgian side anymore. Not that the club's going to be drastically, you know, a big huge cost like Newcastle were. You know what I mean? You're probably talking minimal figures, but it's going to be one of those where it's the perfect sort of location to send your young players out who need to get the required points to get work permits, because obviously they've played in Belgium and the EU and stuff like that. So it's just like what Chelsea do with Vitesse Arnhem. They send all their players over there. It's going to happen, and if it's going to benefit the club going forward for young players, even if they don't make the first team, that we do what Chelsea do, you can sell them on like Man City do. The amount of youngsters that they sell on for, you know, don't make the first team, but they're talking like Conor Gallagher, for example, who's, you know, he's broke at the first team, but is he going to be there long term? And people are talking 50 million for Conor Gallagher, 80 million for Mason Mount, who's, you know, one of their products as well, sort of thing. It's whatever. You know what I mean? They've invested a lot of time in them, but it's a lot of money to come back for someone who hasn't really kicked on somewhere else. Or Mason Mount, who's now not seen as being one of the part of the jigsaw going forward as well. Do you know what I mean? So that's what you want from our academy, and obviously that Vitesse Arnhem was part of that as well. So it's where you send the players over there and stuff like that. So it'll work.
Yeah, it's let's see how it develops. So ultimately, it doesn't affect anything from Newcastle United's point of view right now, and that's the key. Is that we're building and developing and doing what we need to do from our perspective. Just one last thing before we finish off with a couple of questions. Really interesting point. And NUFC 360 put this out there today, and it's something we really do need to consider if we are to get Champions League football or Europa League football. It's the homegrown section of our squad that we have to accumulate going into next season. Now, if anyone knows the situation, you have to have 8 players that have kind of played in England, that are British based, played in the country for 5 years or more. But you also have to have 4 homegrown players that have come out of the academy in order to qualify for the club competition. So this is why they put the homegrown out there, because this is what we currently have available that are in and around the first team. So we've got obviously Elliot Anderson, Sean Longstaff, we've got Gillespie, Dummett. Gillespie and Dummett have barely kicked a ball, and neither is Matty Longstaff, whose contract is running out at the end of the season, and we still don't know what's happening with that situation. What do you make of that situation with 2 or 3? With, I think Gillespie's contract might be out as well. 3 players potentially who are homegrown leaving the club. What do you make of that? And if you were to keep, 4 out of that 5, who of the 4 would you keep?
Does it specifically have to be, when you say home, does it have to have come through the academy, or is it homegrown as in the area? Because obviously, if that was the case, you could take Dan Burn into the context, obviously being a Newcastle lad sort of thing. But what you've also got to look at,
and 3 years. They have to have played for the club within the academy, or come through the academy and played for the club for 3 years.
Right. Okay. Well, what you've got to look at there then is realistically on that picture. There's two that are going to be part of the first team squad. That's Sean Longstaff and Elliot Anderson.
Yeah.
And I think the rest of them, I think all their contracts up the end of the season anyway. They might have the option of a year's extension or something on there. But I think what you've got to look at is this is where you might be looking at the reserve squad you've got now, and who could, because obviously under a certain age don't count towards the obviously the so many man squad. You're allowed so many youngsters as well, a bit like you're the Premier League squad sort of thing. So if they can come in and fit those more, but still obviously tick the box homegrown. They might not get many games in the Champions League, for example, but they're still part of the squad, so it ticks the box. So I think, people are putting Lewis Miley, obviously from the reserves, had a fantastic season as well. Matty Bondswell, who obviously played at the start of the season, the friendlies, when obviously he had a fantastic game against Benfica when he came on. So there's people like that you could probably include in the squad that ticks a few of those boxes, if on top of the two that we've already got. So. But I think the three on the right of that picture, I think they'll probably be away. So I think it'll be two reserve players that'll probably come up and step up for that one.
Just to add to that, they have to be part of the 25-man squad. So, for example, Lewis Miley, who is a great shout, by the way, and would probably qualify as that homegrown because he's come through the academy, he actually wouldn't need to be registered for the competition because of his age.
Yeah,
he would have to be
great age. But
he would have to be registered because he would, in order to qualify as a homegrown, he would have to be registered as one of the 25-man squad. That then potentially could affect the transfer business, because if you're looking to build the squad and develop the squad, you could get into a situation where there are certain players that can't be considered because they're not academy grown, and you're having to bring an academy player into the cup competition, a European competition, just to hit that quota. So it's a really, really difficult situation to work. Now, Ivan Toney would actually qualify, which is crazy.
He was there.
Because he was there. He would actually qualify for that. And whether he's part of that thinking, who knows? We're just throwing that out there. Whether he's part of that thinking for that reason, like when we had Andy Carroll that came back, Chris's favourite,
he'd still qualify.
If he would qualify, he would qualify for that reason. Matty Longstaff, Sean Longstaff, they all qualified. That brings me to the point, and actually, this is part. This kind of falls into the show that Daz, you're going to put together with the Squad Games 3. Is that, does that then make us think about? And I'll just throw those players up again. Does this maybe think about someone like Matty Longstaff, who, yes, he's going to be out long term, but does that make us think about potentially just extending his deal, keeping him at the club because he's homegrown, which may not seem like the right thing to do, but actually long term, because he is homegrown, keeps him at the club and keeps him with the potential that if he does improve his game, could be part of the squad, or even Paul Dummett, who is part of the squad. And Richie just said there might be an option of extending his contract for a year, bringing him into the squad as the 25th man, just to basically hit the quota. I don't know. What do you think?
This is an easy one for me, and I've spoken about this in the past. For me, one of the players you should keep on that list is Mark Gillespie, because I know I keep banging the drum, but I think to myself, he's homegrown. He's probably on a particularly low wage. Let's be honest, he's probably not going to get a kick of a ball, and apparently he's fantastic behind the scenes. And I just think, so why would you not? Like, let's be honest, if we were to go out and bring in a third choice goalie, say we sign one, okay, we probably wouldn't pay much for them, but like, is it a risk anyway? Is it just having to, do the new signing on fee, get the new wages, integrate them into the squads, hope they're not a dickhead? We know we've got our no dickhead policy. Yeah. All of those things, or do you just go to Keith Gillespie, or do you just go to Mark Gillespie?
He wouldn't qualify.
Keith couldn't qualify. Do you just go to Mark Gillespie? Do you want another year? And he'd probably go, yeah, cheers. It's like when Man City had Scott Carson. I don't even know if they still got Scott Carson.
Yeah, I think he was
like
there.
43. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
He's never going to kick a ball.
Of course he
But
does, yeah.
you've got a player there who, every time you see him on the training videos, he's like a pig in shit. He's made up. He's a local lad playing for Newcastle, doesn't kick a ball, but he's thinking, well, I'm getting a decent salary. I love being here.
Could you get them to do another job as well? Maybe work in the ticket office or something like that, while they're like get your value for money, whatever you are paying them.
Before the Phil Fodens, just talk about Man City for a second. Before the Phil Fodens, that's why they got players in like Gareth Barry, Joleon Lescott, players like that. You're thinking, why the hell are they signing those players? James Milner, they kept on for 2 or 3 years, longer than they anticipated, because they wanted that British quota, and that was for Europe. So that was for the 8 players that they needed that played in this country, English-based players. That's what they needed for that. And then they just kind of filled it up with young players, which they even do now. They've probably got Cole Palmer, for example, in the Champions League squad to boost their four homegrowns. Like, they've got that. Phil Foden will be one of them, and maybe 1 or 2 others. But sorry, Daz, what were you going to say?
No. Well, I must say that was a good question and point you brought up, Pete. It's very much like a devil's advocate, Chris, type of question you threw in there. I think I was going to say earlier that even when you look at if you're including Miley in that 4, you don't want to impact his career either. He may benefit from going out on loan or something like that, not just sitting just to make up a number. So we have to take everything into consideration. And what I think it was William put Tony in. Even that's where Tony may make. I know he's an impending ban coming up, but it may make him even more attractive to bring in as a potential player for us to go, and he's on that list as well.
Yeah,
Alan Thompson was a great shout, and we haven't mentioned him for a while. He'd definitely qualify.
Yes.
Yeah,
and he apparently he's got his whole future ahead of him, and if you include him as part of the 25-man squad,
he wouldn't qualify because he's not been part of our academy.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was an English-based academy. It's got to be Newcastle Academy.
It has to be
Newcastle
Academy.
Okay.
So it has to be part of our academy for 3 years or more. So I think it works from obviously whenever they come through until the age of 21, any 3 years within that period. So it could be like 19, 20, 21 of age. They have those 3 seasons. It has to be between whatever age they come into the first team or come into that section to the age of 21. If they play 3 years at Newcastle United, then they qualify as homegrown because they've come through the academy. So it would be that. So Lewis Miley, it would be someone that would qualify, but equally during that period of time, he wouldn't need to be registered, if that makes sense, because he's a young player. Yeah. So you'd have to bring him and register him just to qualify for homegrown, but actually because of his age, you wouldn't need to register him, but you'd have to. So it's kind of like we'd be getting to that stage if we got rid of Matty Longstaff, if we got rid of Paul Dummett, we would have to then replace them with players that wouldn't necessarily need to be added to the squad, that could still be in the squad. Lewis Miley, for example, could be added to the squad and play if we had a crisis of injuries, just on a random day, but wouldn't necessarily need to be part of the squad.
I tell you what, I'm just laughing to myself because I'm thinking Sean Longstaff must be walking around like Billy Big Bollocks, because he must be thinking, "You're not going. I'm not going anywhere," because he's what's his name? Leonardo DiCaprio in Wolf of Wall Street.
I'm not leaving.
Leaving.
Yeah, he basically give him a 10-year contract. He's not going anywhere.
He ain't going anywhere, because if we're going into Europe, we need homegrown players. This is why Dan Ashworth's been brought into the club, because he's going to be essential to bringing through homegrown talent to ensure that when we're playing European football, like Man City, like all the rest of them, that we're churning through young talent. William Smith has just put in there. It's an absolute travesty that Bobby Clark is playing at Liverpool, because he would qualify, and actually he would play
Great
Premier
shout.
League, he played Premier League football and European football for Newcastle United. And you know what? I'd go in for him in the summer. I'd get him back.
That'd be class.
You're telling me if Newcastle put a bid in for him, forget what Liverpool are doing. Liverpool are a great side and doing well. They've had a bad season, but they'll bounce back. But you're telling me if Newcastle put a genuine bid in to get Bobby Clark back to Newcastle with the project that we've got now, that he wouldn't seriously consider that? You laugh. You're having a laugh.
Yeah, he would
Consider coming back and playing for his hometown club, a club that his dad played for. That's history right there. He would not let that go, and he would qualify. He would qualify for it.
Yeah.
Just want to clarify one thing. Royce puts this in, but we sold Freddie Woodman, didn't we?
Yeah.
He's not coming back.
He's sold to Preston.
Yeah. So it's up.
And going back to
He would
your
have
point,
qualified,
Daz,
though. Rice, he would have qualified, Rice. So
Yeah.
Fair play.
yeah, this is the thing, though, isn't it, Daz? You know, because when Pete was talking about it, I was thinking of Kel Watts. But again, you're just bringing players back from a selfish point of view and just being like, yeah, you're just there because we need you for the numbers. Wouldn't it be great to have those youngsters who were pushing through, who were coming on, who were, you know, like an Elliot Anderson? Imagine we have 3-4 Elliot Andersons sitting there and we were like, oh, this is going to be good. You know, we're looking forward to seeing him. Can't wait to see him. Like a Bobby Clark, you know, those kind of players, that'd be brilliant. And obviously that's why, you know, they're spending so much money on the academy, because not just in terms of, you know, growing your own youth, or, you know, not having to go and spend £50 million on a player because you've got one there ready, but also if these new rules are coming in, it's about being able to, you know, satisfy those quotas and saying, yeah, we've got the talent. No, you need 4, or we can register 6. We've got 6 brilliant lads here.
Even the likes of Alex Murphy, like he's only there a year, so he needs 2 more years to even qualify in that category.
But he will. So he'll be in a couple of years' time, homegrown. Yeah. How old is he now? Is he 19?
He's about 19, yeah, because he moved over when he's 18, and after the leaving cert, yeah.
So by the time he's 21, he'll be homegrown talent. So he'll be well within.
He'll be just the right age. You could even say it's a great age.
Great age. I just want to say we currently have 71 thumbs up, 71 likes on the channel for this particular show. We have 140 plus watching the show right now. Just everyone, just click that thumbs up. It makes a massive difference to us. And it means more people can come out and see the work that we do as a channel. So if you haven't already, click that thumbs up. And look, there's 1 or 2 new faces to the channel tonight. So if you haven't already, click subscribe. We are under 700 away from the 6K. So we're making that progress. Only, yeah, well. It's not been long ago. What was it? January we hit the 5K. We're already 300 up. We're moving in the right direction. So anyone that hasn't subscribed to the channel, come and subscribe, because we've got more to come. There's no doubt.
I set people a target at 200 as well, so you can do that. Richie, you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to shoot, lad. My knees absolutely kill. I try to take some painkillers before I take it, but it's just seasoned up a little bit, just sitting in the same spot for 2 hours. So I'm gonna have to shoot, unfortunately.
No hassle.
I think we've got a couple of roundup questions anyway before we go. So fair play, mate. Top
right, I'll speak to you later then.
Mind yourself, Richie. Take care.
Everyone, see you soon.
Take it easy, mate.
That's it for me. I think there's a couple of star questions if you want to round up the show.
Where we go first? We'll start at the bottom of the question. There's one here, Pete, that I know you the name that was on your list. I also heard us looking at Spurs right-footed Botman from Torino. I don't know much about him, but he's meant to be good. Yeah,
so I saw this on ToonStats today. Gianluca Damasio, who's very well renowned and very well known in Italy, reported that Newcastle United are set to make centre-back Skurs, I think it might be Skurs, a key target in the summer. Now, for people that don't know, Daz is right. He is a right-sided centre-back. He's also good friends with Sven Botman. They came through at Ajax together. So it's a player that we've apparently been looking at. He's only 23. He plays for Torino, so there is history there as well. And he is supposedly a very, very talented player. I've got to be honest, I don't know too much about him. But obviously, they've lost a fantastic centre back. The Brazilian centre back that they had and that we were linked with, I think it was Bremer. That left. So they've replaced him, and he seems to be hitting the heights now. So fair play. It's one of those things that we're going to have to keep an eye on, because he's a new name that's been added to the list. But yeah, he is one that we need to keep an eye on. 23 years old, good age. Some may say
Great age.
Great age. There you go.
Lisa asked the question: do you think Garen Krul will come back to us in the summer? Where else would he go, Lisa? It was only a 6-month loan, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I suppose she's probably asking whether he'll go again.
Another loan. Okay, yeah. Yeah, maybe. I imagine he will get a more of a loan. Maybe they'll look at him for a while and get a pre-season and they take a good look at him then, and then make a decision. I guess I don't know whether to loan him out again. He hasn't got a run of it in at Hearts, so he needs to get some football somewhere. And sitting in the reserves in Newcastle, is that going to be good enough? I don't think so. He probably will go out, Lisa.
Yeah, that play. Yeah.
Right, let's move on. Ollie Watkins, question from Tom: would you take Ollie Watkins in the summer? I think yes. He's playing well, as we know.
Go on, Chris. What do you think? Would you take him?
No. And it's just because I think the price tag will be too high. I didn't change my opinion on him from the weekend, even though I thought he was brilliant. So I don't want to go against all my original thoughts, which I said pre-match, where I said I don't think he's that great. So no, I would say no. Great game, not taking that away from him, but no, because Villa are going to want 60-70 million, and Ollie Watkins is not worth that.
No, exactly the reason why.
The price, no.
The money that they would want for him, I think they paid the best pot of 30 for him initially. There's no way I'd pay above that for him. No way.
we paid 20 for Wilson, and they paid 30 for Watkins, because we were talking. We kind of, both of them were available at the time.
Put it this way: they'd put the same price tag on him that Brentford would on Ivan Toney. I know who I'd choose.
Yeah, homegrown. So now we know.
Yeah.
Right.
And a great age.
Yeah. I heard rumors of James Ward-Prowse if Southampton go down, says Chris in UFC. What are you having with James Ward-Prowse? I'll let someone else go first on this one. Pete.
Bad age.
Bad age. Not for me. He's a free kick specialist, got no doubt about it. Can cause absolute havoc with his deliveries. But for what we want in our midfield, I don't think he's suited. That's my personal opinion. I know Daryl in the Jordan Down South group is a big fan of James Ward-Prowse and loves him. Every time he bags a goal, he's on the chat. I told you about him. I told you. But for me, he doesn't give us what we want in our midfield. We're looking for a particular type of midfielder in a number 6 and a number 8 position. For me, he doesn't give us that. And that's just my opinion. Chris,
your thoughts?
No. Again, he's another one. I don't doubt his ability from set pieces. I personally don't think he's dynamic enough. I don't think he gets about the pitch enough. And you boys mentioned him before, he's 29. No. I think we'd be looking more about someone around the 23 to 26 range, where his best years are ahead of him. I think with James Ward-Prowse, I'd struggle to see where he goes, to be honest. Maybe a high mid-table team, maybe someone, if Southampton goes on, maybe a Palace or Wolves.
Villa wanted him before.
Yeah, maybe. I don't think he suits Eddie Howe's style of play, to be honest. I don't think he gets around the pitch quick enough.
Yeah, no, and my thoughts here is, I know I have a big, not disagreement, but it's just opposite of what Martin's saying here. Martin's all for James Ward-Prowse, and I would be the opposite. I'm not. He makes out that he would be an improvement on Longstaff. My answer there is only on free kicks, and so I'd rather Longstaff in there. But let's see what happens. If it was a decent price, fair enough, but I don't think we would get it for a decent price either. I'm sure Southampton would be looking for big bucks from him, and I'd rather spend that money elsewhere on someone younger. That is it. That's it for the questions, guys. I think we should probably round it up there for the night. And we should give a shout out to our sponsors and tell people what's coming up next. Because let's tell people what's coming up next first. What is happening? What day is today? Wednesday. What's happening tomorrow?
Away Days is back. Away Days is back in business. So we are delighted to welcome back a View from the South stand. And if you didn't watch the last one, if you're new to Away Days and you didn't see a View from the South stand the last time we played Tottenham, we had a superb guest on, and he is coming on again to talk all things Newcastle. Super respectable to the club, very knowledgeable on football, and it's going to make for a really, really good chat. And I'm really, really interested in hearing what he's got to say about Tottenham season and where he thinks they're going to go moving forward, because they're not in a good place right now. He sent me his predicted 11, so we'll be talking tactics. So yeah, get involved. It'll be a great chat tomorrow, 7:30. Don't be late.
Nice one. Always a great show. And Dr. Doom will be back to give his prediction. That's my favorite bit. I love that bit. Right.
It's seeing him square, but he's like, side of the fence, like, I'll just stay in the middle.
It's the suspense, isn't it? It's like we've even put him last on the predictions. Just
we wait. Oh,
and Keith is watching the chat as well. You know, he's taking everything in, but it's gas, and I love Keith.
It's when he says something, and you're like, "Oh my god, he's made a decision," and then he'll go, "But," and then he says the other side, and then you go, "Sorry, Keith, what's the prediction?" And then he's like, "I'll go 1-1."
Love it.
He's got a few of them right though as well.
Brilliant. No, he does. He does. To be fair, he does.
Right. Also, coming up is a reaction show on Sunday night, so keep an eye out for that. And the draw now. We're going to have a draw for our members' prize draw, so keep your eyes. And then also, just to let people know, we have a big week coming up the following week. There's a lot happening, and we don't even know what's happening. There's so much happening, and we've got a lot to get through. Then there's a game as well. There'll be an Everton away days. There'll be the game. There'll be a reaction. We're all getting ourselves to Newcastle as well, so a lot happening next week. But a shout out to the sponsors now. Shout out to the RadiatorShed.com. And I was talking to Russ today. He's doing great. Business is booming. And if you want any radiators, and if you want them fitted or anything like that, get in contact with Russ at the RadiatorShed.com, as I put Chris in jail. And business is booming. He has new pictures for me as well. I'm going to upload them. I haven't looked at them properly yet, but they look really, really nice. And he got something special as well. I can't tell anybody else about it. In the radiator sense, for Newcastle fans, 1-2 watch. That's Russ. And Russ is going to meet us as well while we're over in Newcastle. We'll wait till next week. We'll tell people where we're going to be. But we picked a venue as well for that Saturday night. And if you need to get those radiators installed, we contact Russ in the install works as well. And here's some radiators. And shout out to H2O Bathroom Design Co., the Northeast's largest supplier of Velcro and bathroom wear. Team Valley Gateshead, over 20 years established, ran by the family. Get down to the showroom on 11th Avenue, Team Valley Estate, Gateshead. And quality bathrooms here. If you know someone who's upgrading their bathrooms or upgrading a house or building a house or doing some renovations, contact the guys there, and guys and girls, and they will sort you out. Or go through Russ, and they're interconnected, so they'll all sort you out. That is it. Shout out for the sponsors. Thanks for everyone for joining us in the chat. Remember to hit that like button on the way out as well, and tune in for Away Days tomorrow. So anything else, lads? Or we say, how'd you like that?
How'd you like that?
Let's do it.
How you like